Your mind can only work in a linear fashion. It's brilliant for the tool that it was meant to be, but it will never conceive of the dreams that you actually have already living inside of you.
In today's episode, I am joined by a dear couple of epic human beings. Their names are Makenzie Marzluff and Michael McPherson, and they are soulmates, as they say, published authors and serial entrepreneurs on a mission to restore the heart into business. Makenzie is the founder of Delighted by Desserts, which is the home of the original dessert hummus, as seen on ABC's Shark Tank, Cosmopolitan, Oprah Magazine, and hundreds of other media outlets. So, in today's episode, we speak about the real cost of our choices. We get down to the real cost of compromising our integrity and our dreams for profit and comfort, and also alternative ways of doing business that are aligned with the values and vision behind such businesses instead of doing things the way we're told they have to be. So in this, we speak about leadership, we speak about service, we speak about business and success, about sacred union, and about the lessons that Makenzie and Michael received from closing down their multi-million-dollar company to open up space for what felt most congruent with their values. And from that space, how they have come stronger than ever. So in that, we also speak about our journey to ethical consumption and how I personally went from consuming and voting with my dollar for things that weren't really aligned with what I wish to see in the world. So I encourage you to listen up. I hope that you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did, and keep on listening as we dive right into it. Makenzie and Michael, I am so excited to have you in the podcast again and to have you together this time for such a
Yay.
different topic. Thank you for coming.
Well, thanks so much for having us on.
Yes, I'm excited. So we can dive into so many different topics, and you two are some of these people that I know we can talk about anything for hours and days. But there is this particular transition and shift that you recently went through that I find so interesting and so inspiring. So I'd love to start there. Tell us a little bit more about the transition that you did with your business and how that has brought you into deeper alignment, into more integrity, into a more potent leadership within yourself.
Mm.
Okay. So, well, we were just talking about this on our finance meeting this morning with our CFO and bookkeeper, and just kind of reflecting on the last 6-7 years and what this next phase of our business is going to look like and feel like in comparison to the previous years. So I love the question. In 2015, I launched a brand called Delighted By, and I might have talked a little bit about it on the podcast we did together, just you and I. And launched into the retail space here in the States in a very traditional sense, like classic food industry model, to distributors and then to retailers, and trying to get our product in as many doors as possible. And I had these like big dreams, big vision of being in national shelves. And we did that. And we scaled really quickly because it was the first dessert hummus to market. We just got a lot of press. And what we were saying in the meeting this morning is it was like very shiny. It was very shiny. But because of the media that we got with Shark Tank and Cosmo and Oprah and like all these different media outlets that were talking about our product, but the complexity of the actual industry was so extremely taxing on my body, and it required so much support in terms of the team and like growing a team and making sure they were like performing at the highest level, but also making sure that they were from the industry. So it was like there was me who had this like heart-centered mission. I consider myself a light worker. The business itself was birthed from my ceremonies with ayahuasca. So it was like there's me, highly sensitive, and really doing this from my heart and from love, and then kind of popping into a very conventional channel of business. And I tried my best to make it work for a long time, and that it came at the sacrifice of my body, my health, our relationship at times. But the numbers were there, at least on the top line. Like our biggest year, Jennifer was reminding us, we did $7 million one year. And that was so exciting, from, again, as a conscious entrepreneur, being like, wow, we were able to reach this level. But what it took to sell the $7 million, you're just breaking even, if not losing. And it didn't feel like I was walking away with anything. Like the depth wasn't there. And what I'd try to do is really focus on company culture, internal growth, personal growth inside the team. But it was like literally like pulling teeth to get these people to be a yes to doing business in a new way. They constantly wanted me to change and be more corporate and more standard and more basic. And we paid tens of thousands of dollars to coach these types of people that were coming from the industry. And it was fulfilling at times, but often very draining. So long story short, we were seeing a lot of issues on the shelf, especially exasperated with COVID because of all the competition that entered on the market. My manufacturers, both of them, stole our recipes, copied, and basically launched their own brands, as well as sold the recipes to other brands to manufacture that for them. So basically every hummus company now has a sweet hummus. Every dip company here in the States, there's a sweet hummus in their line. So it was impossible for us to keep up with that, and for us to be able to meet the competition, the price demands of these retailers without sacrificing our ingredients, our integrity. And at the end of the day, we started working with an executive that was just like trying to pretend that he was interested in the new paradigm of business, but he wasn't. Like his actions weren't living up to that. He was more interested in just, again, the greed and the money and sometimes I try to say it nicely, but to not say it nicely, try to rob me of my own company. And anyway, had a huge moment in February of this year, when he like laid it out in front of me. And it was like, what? He's like literally trying to steal this company from me. And Michael and all my shareholders, they were like, you need to fire him and get the hell out of that situation. But here's the thing, is that I manifested the situation because I had started devaluing myself in my business. I had started creating a story that I was the problem, that because I didn't like the industry, because it was so hard on my nervous system, because it was so complex. And see, the thing is, when I was younger in this industry, I thought I could change it. I thought I could go in and meet these buyers and meet these retailers, and I could convince them to change their way of being and change the way that they do things. And I kept getting defeated. They were not interested. If anything, I was just this young, naive girl who didn't know what she was doing. And so I started believing that, and started thinking that I needed to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars. And at one point, over $1 million in salary for people to run this company for me. And so then I manifested this situation where they tried to kick me out of my own company. And in that moment, my shareholder reflected to me that I needed to get back, and I needed to step back into my leadership and bring like my truest essence. And when I heard Delighted by my entity, she was like, all you need to do is do what you're delighted by. And when I looked at my entire company, I wasn't delighted by any of it. And so we let go of everybody, and we just paused. So since February, we took away all of our other contracts that we had, Whole Foods, Wegmans, these other last distributors that we were in, and we just cut them. We cut the cord, like literal cut karmic cords with my manufacturers, because I had been putting up with so much bullshit with no other options. I just cut. And it was so karmic. And as soon as I did that, it was like, okay, now let's rebirth this company, but from a place that I'm truly delighted by. And I knew straight away that my masculine counterpart that I'd been looking for since day one was right next to me. And I told my CFO that, and I was like, I really think Michael's our person. Like Michael's our CEO. And Michael thought I was crazy for saying that. But Maria, my CFO, didn't. And she was like, you 100%, why have we not seen this all along? And so then him and I came together, and now we moved to Montana from Hawaii, because in Hawaii, I was running a virtual business. I was running everything virtually, moved to Montana, rented a space. We just built it out over the last 6 months to create the highest vibe food manufacturing facility in the world. And we have a long-term vision of what that's going to look like in the future. But right now it's 2,500 square feet with our energy in it. And we're just taking all the manufacturing back into our hands. And then I could go on and on about our future of how we're going to hire and what we're going to do. But what I had learned through my nonprofit and our nonprofit with Cacao is we love that direct to customer experience. And the retailers were such a pain in the ass that I was like, I don't even want to do this to myself anymore. There's not even profit, and I'm not happy. So we're just selling 100% online now. And that's looked like, again, halting all of our contracts, letting go of employees that weren't in alignment for us, and not taking income since February. And we've invested everything we have into this facility. And so it's taken courage, but we've just known this is exactly what God is instructing us to do.
I absolutely love that. And I absolutely love you and what you stand for, and the fact that you said yes to this. And I know that for the people listening, some people will be listening from a similar position where they have a product-based company. Some people will be listening with a service-based business. Some people will be listening without a business. The majority of the people that listen to this podcast are entrepreneurs, and I wanted to highlight some of the lessons that you've shared as you were sharing this story, because there is so much gold in this. Even if you're listening to this and you have a service-based company versus a product-based company, there is so much in here with, I feel so often we can dilute our message. We can choose to doubt ourselves and believe the stories and the projections that a certain industry or society wants to project upon us. We can choose to dishonor ourselves in the name of service, in the name of just wanting to fit in or to belong and to make things work. And I hear in everything that you were sharing that the intention was from day one so pure and so genuine. And then the world comes at us, and it happens for men and women. And I feel like it can happen even more strongly sometimes for us women. The world comes at us with all of these ideas of what we need to be, what we need to do, how it is done. I see this, for example, in the personal development industry. It happens a lot where we have these genuine intentions of sharing our work, and then there's all these stories about how you do sales and how you do marketing and how you enroll people into things. And I went through my own personal journey of having to unsubscribe to all of this bullshit and going, actually, I don't think I have to manipulate people or make them feel like shit about themselves so that they buy into my programs. I don't necessarily agree with all of these different ways of putting myself up in a pedestal so that people can look up to me and then they can want to pay thousands of dollars to work with me. Like, that just doesn't resonate. And so I wanted to bring this up because this conversation is such a powerful one, and your story is one that is related to these products that you sell. But these teachings can be applied to anything in leadership, in life, in relationship. All of these different themes that you were bringing up will show up for us.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you went through that too, when you were kind of exploring your coaching career, let's call it, and you just weren't aligning with like putting yourself on that pedestal. And at one point you were like, what? I'm talking to Michael now for those that can't see. But at one point you were saying, like, what's wrong with me? Like, why isn't this like, going so perfectly, and I'm not getting all these people? And it's because you didn't want to do anything that was out of alignment for you, and present yourself in this way online and do these strategies. And then now for you to like step into this role of your dharma, I think that's where the opportunity is for you to let go of anything that's not in alignment. Then what you're really here to do will come forward, and in the magical ways that we can attract clients, attract customers. But we have to take that leap of faith. That's the thing.
Yeah, for sure. And I'd love to hear, what were your biggest, let's say, lessons, takeaways from this journey as you're coming into this new chapter. And also I'd love to hear from you, Michael, what were some of your maybe blogs or challenges and your takeaways and lessons with stepping into this role?
Yeah, I think for me in the beginning, I played mostly a supportive role with Makenzie. So I would be there to catch anything that she experienced during her day, help her process her emotions, and just be there for her emotionally when she was going through pretty challenging stuff. And I got personally very comfortable in that role. I knew how to do it. I could do it very well. I became a good listener. And then the moment it came time for me to step in and play a different role inside of our companies, inside of our businesses, I definitely felt a lot more uncomfortable. I don't have any business background, business experience. I've done a lot of different things in my life, but nothing has ever really added up to be able to show a resume that says this guy deserves to be a CEO or this guy deserves to be a head of a company. So it really was just her immediate faith in me that then allowed me to step into that for myself. And she mentioned my coaching. I was really, life is so funny, right? I really thought that I was going to go on and be this coach and be this influencer and speak to men, speak about sex. I was even on your podcast previously talking about that topic. My mind and my ego had created a whole vision for what that was going to look like. And Makenzie had been inviting me to participate in one way or another all along. And I was saying, I got to do my own thing. I got to find my own way. I got to create my own thing. And ironically, what I always come back to, and the lesson I keep learning over and over and over again, is what I'm meant to be doing is always right here in front of me. And this, Makenzie, these entities had been here right in front of me the whole time. And so when I got that, my courageous leap of faith was saying, okay, I'm going to set aside this vision that I've held now for 3-4 years. I'm going to give up, if you will, coaching, and I'm going to close whatever structures I have right now with my clients and let them know why I'm doing that, to have the highest integrity with them. And I'm just going to show up to this and be a beginner and not know how to do something and learn as I go, which it's only been in the last few months as I reflect on my life. I can see how in my 20s, in my adult life, I wouldn't do anything that I didn't know that I could do, which is so limiting, because I wouldn't give myself the opportunity to go through the difficulty in the beginning to then become proficient, effective, efficient, and a leader in something. So I went through those stages here with Makenzie, with our entities, and felt uncomfortable, didn't know the lingo, didn't know what to say, didn't know what a PO is, a BOL, and all this stuff, all this language that gets used in the food industry. But after being uncomfortable for a few months now, I feel so confident. I feel like there's nothing that I can't learn because I'm allowing myself to be a beginner again.
That is such a big thing. And there's a few things that I want to pinpoint here. First of all, the face with which you look at Michael Makenzie is so sweet. And I just had to say that. For those of you that can't see the video, this is the sweetest thing ever. So head to YouTube if you want to watch this. And also, there are many things that land here for me as you're sharing, Michael, both in terms of leadership and also in the power of being in sacred union and the power of really showing up in relationship in a way that is for the greater good of all, and in a way that is so deeply committed to our dharma and our path of awakening, of stepping into our full potential. And it's so powerful to witness and so powerful to experience that in you guys. So there's a few things I wanted to bring up from what you shared. First, this is something that you both did, something that I had to do in my own industry, in my own path as well, with saying yes to starting where we are beginners. Because to shift from doing things the old way, in an old paradigm way, in a way that weren't serving your nervous system, Makenzie, that weren't in alignment with your values, that all these ways that just weren't serving you and weren't resonating with you, you had to step into this beginner space, because even though you knew what you were doing, you were stepping into a whole new way of doing things. As you said, you're creating this facility that it's done in a way that nobody has ever done it before. It's a completely radical visionary expression of you and your work. And it takes courage, and it takes humility, and it takes dedication to do that. As I was mentioning, in order for me to do things differently in the coaching industry and not subscribe to the ideas of hustling and pushing and competing and keeping vulnerability and authenticity in so that I can look like I am a somebody and I am somehow in a pedestal or whatever shit. Like, that takes courage. It takes courage, because the world is saying, no, this is how it's done. And you can only succeed if you do it this way. In the same way, Michael, with what you were sharing, to say yes to listening and being present to what is in front of you and what life is presenting as your next step, instead of how you thought it had to be done, requires the courage and the willingness to commit to that. So this is a really powerful and potent lesson in leadership. And I know that I love that we have this thing in common, and yet it has showed up in such different ways for each of us. But I want everybody listening to really hear this. If we want to truly, truly open ourselves to the possibility of connecting with our ultimate potential, whether it is in leadership, in business, as people that walk in their dharma and carry a powerful mission, or whether it is in relationship, it takes that willingness to say yes to what's present versus what the world tells us things are like. So I love that, and I really want to honor your path as well, walking together in sacred union, because it's such a potent piece of why you are able to create this right now. So without wanting to go too much off topic, I would love to hear from you. What have you seen that choosing and committing to being in this powerful partnership that you are and being in sacred union has opened up, so that you could be even in more alignment with your dharma and show up even more powerfully in your leadership and in your business?
Getting tapped, so I guess that means it's my turn to go. Gosh, it's hard to narrow it down, honestly. If I really sat down and reflected on it, I think almost everything has come from union and the possibilities and the opportunities that our union presents to us constantly. For me, it's been a lot of growth. In the beginning, it was growth through pain and witnessing mostly the pain I was causing in my beloved, and then that being mirrored back to me and going, oh, okay, something's not quite right here. Like, something needs to change over where I am. And now, now we've gotten to a place where we're mostly growing from desire. We've kind of handled the healing aspect. We obviously are always revisiting things and even going deeper into our trauma and realizing trauma that we didn't even know we had, right? Deeper you go, the deeper it gets. But we're really focused on, like, how do we want to live this life? What do we really want to do? What kind of impact can we have? And to get to come together from that place, and of course have someone who gets you, knows you most times better than you know yourself. So if you bring anything forward, they're probably already thinking about it anyways. To be able to lead from that place and grow a business from that place and lead from, like, what kind of impact do we want to have? I don't know how I got so lucky. Like, I don't, yeah, I could probably just leave it at that. I don't know how I got to be in this position. Like, I know I've shown up the whole way, but it's hard to feel like, yeah, like I'm at a loss for words, like I'm deserving, or, it's more beautiful than anything I could have ever imagined and created. More beautiful than anything I could have ever come up with on my own.
I love that so much. I completely second all of that. Just feeling it.
Yeah.
And it's really challenging sometimes too, which is
Yeah.
like, we're still working on refining our communication, especially in times of stress.
Yeah.
We've been burning the midnight oil the last couple of weeks, and when the stress gets high, the communication gets typically very low, so
Mhm.
it's offered us opportunity for even greater refinement. And that's the thing about
Yeah.
sacred union, is like there is no end to the amount of refinement. There's no end. Like you start with the big stuff, right? And like you knock them out, and then it's like, okay, you think you're good, but then the constant opportunity for refinement and growth. I don't know. You can get that in ceremonies. Sure, you can sit in plant medicine ceremonies. You can join ceremonies in group circles. But I don't know of a better place where you can really receive those codes than other than sacred union. And you can't run away from it either. If you have a community that you're a part of and something comes up, you can be like, okay, something came up for me, I'm out of here. In union, you typically live with the person. They're there always. There's no avoiding it.
Yep.
So there's another level of accountability.
And we have very high standards for each other. So
sometimes to a fault.
to a fault. Yeah. So we don't, there are some people that just can, get really comfortable in relationship and just get lazy. But I'm noticing that I really can't get off the hook with this one. And vice versa. So yeah, we see where we just have those honest conversations on the daily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's so powerful to have that embodied practice of accountability, embodied practice of alignment, embodied practice of truth. And that, of course, reflects after in our path, in our mission, whether we're doing it collectively with our partners or individually in different missions.
Yeah.
But the anchor that this type of relationship, conscious partnership offers is such a game changer because we get to have that embodied experience on a daily basis, that reminder of like, hey, this is what you preach, this is what you say you're up to, this is what you care about, and you can't really get away from it. And it definitely acts as the biggest mirror. I will agree with you, Michael. This is the biggest workshop of ever, for sure. So in saying that and tying it back to the transition that you both have gone through with your businesses, how do you see this, having this safety and this anchor of the relationship has allowed you to more confidently go out into the world and pursue this mission that could have been quite scary for either of you to pursue by yourselves, right? And I would also I'd love to hear a little bit more about what this mission that you're now carrying looks and feels like.
Well, for those that have heard of the Gene Keys, Richard Rudd talks a lot about the return of the sacred couple and how powerful it is when the masculine and feminine come together in this way, and the communities that can be cultivated from there and the missions that can be created and whatnot. And I really feel like we're living in that experience that he has said is like a prophecy. Because for me, when I started Delighted by, it was rather scary. Like I was starting it on my credit cards, and it was I was living out of a van, and negative $15 in my bank account. But I was going for it because I didn't know what I was signing up for at all. I was very naive, and now I know that this level of business and this level that we want to play at comes with responsibility. And at times that responsibility can feel daunting. And so now, like, all the low moments and the scary moments and the sad moments, all those and the highs, Michael's been there for me, and held me through those times and given me this true sense of family and this place I can, this is coming from me, someone that doesn't have really blood family, like a lot of it really at all. So for Michael to provide that sense of home and safety and like trust and security and stability. It's helped my nervous system relax so much over time. But then to go into this next stage, like I'm not going into it naively. Like, yes, I know I'm going to be doing this way from even more alignment based on what I've learned and what I know I don't want to do anymore. But I'm also going in knowing that this is a big responsibility and we're saying yes to carrying that. And we're not carrying alone. I mean, we have our guides and God and our ancestors and the support all around us. Of course, prayer is everything. And our physical bodies are carrying that responsibility. So if something goes wrong, it falls on us. And to know that I'm going into that with my beloved and with honestly someone that, like, no matter what was to happen with our even romantic union, someone that would be there. Like, we are so committed to that unconditionally loving space and support. And we've had enough tough conversations leading into this phase of our business to know that we're absolutely committed to the vision, no matter what. And that we're going to support each other unconditionally, no matter what. And we're just lucky enough that we're falling more in love with each other every day because that's our intention. And therefore the tools and the resources and the support and the awarenesses and those things keep coming into our lives that have us grow into new people. And then we fall more in love with each other. So it's like this all-encompassing gift, I can say. But I mean, in short, yes, being in partnership, a monogamous relationship for me has helped my nervous system relax so much. At times, maybe certain days, it was more challenging, but it was always for the ultimate good, the better of myself and the better of my vision and the better of all, just by me going through those portals that Michael has invited me into. So highly recommend. Highly recommend.
5-star rating.
Yeah, I will say though, I heard this one lady named Jamie Kern Lima or something like this. She sold her company for $1.2 billion to L'Oreal and is the first woman CEO at L'Oreal. And she just is a huge deal with what she's done. And she was saying, do not ever go into business with your partner, because all you'll do is only talk about work and you'll fight and you'll be stressed and all the things. And I was like, well, we're just going to have to break that rule. And we're just going to have to, like we're going to have to be really intentional about setting aside that time for intimacy and connection and just dropping into our bodies, like completely separate from service, So that's what we're committed to make it the most, optimal situation possible.
How are you doing that? How are you keeping it so intentional that you are creating the space to fall in love with each other even more? I don't really love the term falling in love, but
I know,
being in love with each other even more, rising in love, and having space for intimacy, for playfulness, for that depth, without it becoming this thing where you're just talking about work and working and just worrying about the mission all of the time.
Well, the good thing for us is that we actually have a lot of fun talking about work. So when we're doing that, it's not necessarily a disservice to either one of us or to our relationship. It's uplifting, it's inspiring. And of course, it comes to a point where it's like, okay, we need to draw the line here. Rest, nourish, take care of our bodies, and also nourish our relationship. And honestly, for me, it's looked like deepening my level of honesty in our relationship. How honest can I be with my emotional state? Even today, for instance, like I said, we've been burning the midnight oil. We've been going pretty hard for the last couple of weeks. And today it hit me. And what hit me was this feeling of like, man, we really haven't nourished our relationship. I miss you. I'm feeling like almost like a loss of intimacy, that romantic connection. We're working, we're around each other, we're doing the thing, right? but there's that other element of union that I'm feeling a little bit of a loss at. And so, of course, Makenzie can recognize when something's going on with me and ask me to bring it forward, and getting to share that even like while we were about to go work, so really it was like a clearing before we go and actually, fulfill the intention that we're doing all this in. I got to share like, hey, I'm feeling a lack of intimacy. I'm feeling like I miss you. I'm feeling a little bit disconnected, and I'm really desiring to nourish our relationship, to spend a little bit more time on that end of the spectrum, as soon as we're finished up here. And we're before you know it, there's like who were we listening to?
Trevor Hall.
Trevor Hall's on the radio, so Trevor Hall's coming through and the music is just right, and we're both crying, it's like we're having the most intimate moment we could possibly have
at the brownie
after
flow
having
wrapper.
just said I'm feeling a lack of intimacy, and then we're both crying, staring at each other, Trevor Hall in the background serenading, and it was just like, that's how you do it. And then outside of that, of course, we put structures in place to really support us as well. And one of our best and most consistent structures has been Sunday service. And Sunday service is when we sit down together, we review the week, we acknowledge the other person for how they showed up that week. I really appreciated when you do this. I want to acknowledge you for showing up this way in this situation. And then we also clear anything that might be left over in our space from the week ahead. Like, oh, I just, when you said this, my feelings got a little bit hurt. I didn't bring it up at the time because I was embarrassed, or we were in a group setting, and I've kind of been holding on to that ever since, et cetera, to just like open up the space completely, well, really close one space and open up the next space into the next week, and bring intention the week ahead. And then the second part of Sunday service is like, okay, what is your core values for this coming week? What's your intention? What's something we could do to contribute to our family, our household this week? What's something we could do to contribute to the entities? These days, it's like, what do we have to do to contribute to the entities? So, like, which list do you want to pull from? But it's a way for it to be just us, and this really eye to eye, no distractions, no phones, no bullshit, and really like closing one week, making sure we're truly whole and complete with one another, and then intentionally creating our next week together.
Yeah, and like sometimes it can be quite like simple, but other weeks, because we have a space to share any deep-seated feelings, there's been times where maybe there was something like either of us were scared to share with the other one. So it provides a nice space for us to share that and say, hey, I'm a little scared to share this, but there's something on my heart. And, we can just really go there. Because when you're in union for years, I think, first of all, you have a lot of shadow patterns that you're like transmuting and working with and noticing. But then you also have desires, like, sexual desires, all kinds of desires that you want to talk about and be open with, and not have any like nothing that you have to hide, and just to be like loved and embraced and not have any shame. That's like a really nice space for that.
Yeah. What's great about it is like some of the things that come up in sacred service, if they were to come up in the in-between spaces in our life, like while we're transitioning from work to home, or just while we're working, we're having like conversations as we're passing each other,
or in the car or something,
it probably wouldn't go well.
Exactly.
It would cause some kind of conflict. But because there's the intentionality around the space, and because we know that it's set aside, it's an entirely different experience of sharing, and of course intimacy and vulnerability.
Exactly. And last thing I would say about this is that with Delighted By and Request Bar, and cacao too, but we used to have our hands on cacao. We used to make all of it ourselves. And now the facility in Peru oversees that. So cacao too, but not as intimately. These entities, especially with having our own manufacturing facility, if we're going to say this is the highest by manufacturing facility in the world, better believe that's going to hold us fucking accountable. there was a moment where
Yeah.
we would not go inside because we were in conflicts, and we sat in that van. It's freezing, and we were late because we were meeting a trainer for our equipment, and we would not go inside because we couldn't. Like, it was like, this is not the energy we want to bring in. And so it's just for us a matter of not like letting things slide, and extra intentionality, extra responsibility, and like empowering ourselves to really clear things with each other and be intentional. So like today, that situation he was describing, we were sitting there with gloves on our hands, the brownies lined up. We were about to flow these brownies, and I was like, what intention do we want to put into these brownies? And I was like, speaking of which, are you okay? Like, what's going on? Like, just like an intuitive feeling. And so then we got to have this moment together, and this clearing and this connection. And then we infused love and sacred union codes into the brownies. So it's perfect that we're talking about that today.
Absolutely.
I absolutely love that. And that's the theme that I see. And I really honor you both so much for this, because I love the level of intentionality that you bring to everything that you do. And it's not just in your relationship, but like you were saying, your business. And I wanted to tie it up into this because I know that everything in Delighted By, in Request Bar, everything cacao is done with such deep intentionality, from where the products come from to how the people that are working in those products, with those products, are showing up to those, to the packaging, to the ingredients, everything. Even like how you've done the branding of it and the packaging, everything. I feel like I'm repeating myself with packaging. I've said packaging like 3 times.
It's really good
I
packaging.
really love the packaging.
We spent a lot of time
My
on it.
inner
Like,
child
I really
is
want you
on
to
it.
know I love the packaging. But it's everything has that deep intentionality. And as you were describing this practice that you have with yourself, which I love, I actually have known about this practice since I met you guys, and there's that deep intentionality in everything. So borderline with everything that you're sharing, whether in relationship or at work, is the level of commitment to being deeply intentional and in integrity with what you truly want to bring more of into the world, through you, through your relationship, into your relationship, through your products, into your products. So I really, really love and honor that. And I feel like the world will be such a different place when more entrepreneurs and business owners have the courage, and people in partnership and individuals, all of us, have the courage to really step into this next level of intentionality. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about the specifics of these products and how the intentionality that you've brought to every single part of the developing and the marketing of this has been.
Do you want to talk about Delighted By?
Why don't you start with like ingredient sourcing and stuff like that, and we'll just build off it.
Okay, cool. Okay, so Delighted By is, like I said, was the original dessert hummus company, and now it's morphed in just a high vibe dessert company. So really what sets it apart is, well, the fact that it was birthed from the medicine. It just literally carries like divine feminine, divine mother creatrix codes. So when people eat our brownies and our dessert hummus and our products, it's not about just how they taste. It's how it shifts and changes their cells, and in a way that can reach the masses. So for instance, not everyone wants to drink a cup of ayahuasca, not everyone's ready for that, but most people can eat a brownie. So how can we make this brownie the most
potent? To do both.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And you, on the other hand, need both. Same. So it's a matter of treating the product as medicine, and what that would look like from ingredients is really like ethical supply chains, looking into where are we getting these ingredients from, who's behind them, how are they being handled, are they truly certified organic, like where do they come from, are they as close as possible to where we are living. And so it's asking those kinds of questions. And then it's also for us elevating art and creativity. So that's why our packaging is reflecting that, with one of our first artists that we're collaborating with named Tammy, and her altar moons on all of our packaging. And other artists, we have an artist, Asha, in Australia, who we're working with, and just elevating creativity. And then also in that, sensuality, like literally just activating the light and the purity of our sensuality through our products. Again, these aren't things that are on the packaging, but with something we know, and it's something we desire. And one of my mentors back in the day told me that Gaia is my main guide, and that she is working through me with our food products. So essentially, someone eats our food and it upgrades their cells, it goes through them, they give it back to the earth, and therefore it upgrades the planet. And it's just this cycle. So with Delighted By, our mission is really to give the world more reasons to be delighted by life. But secretly, the mission is to just activate the heck out of our creativity, the divine feminine, the creatrix codes, and the divine mother, to bring back the grace of the divine mother, because we cannot get through this lifetime without that. Yep. If we don't have it's the only thing that will save us is the grace of the divine mother. That's my humble opinion.
Yeah.
And then with Request Bar, do you want to share about Request Bar's mission?
Yeah, I think I just want to share in general with both Delighted By and Request Bar. Request Bar is our new startup. It's a protein bar company. And the messaging behind it, what we're up to with Request Bar, is getting people to dream again, inspiring people to dream again, and not only dream, but take courageous leaps of faith in bringing their wildest dreams to life. It's easy to daydream. It's easy to dream at night, wake up and forget about it. But to have a dream that each one of us is born with, that calls to us in the silence, to then listen to that and do what's required of us in order to actually materialize that dream, that's what Request Bar is here for. And we really believe, like Makenzie said, it's energy in, energy out. A lot of people will focus on ingredients. Most companies won't even go that far to source good ingredients, but it's not enough anymore. And it's certainly not aligned for us to only source, organic ingredients or fair trade ingredients. It's not enough anymore. The world requires something different. People require something different. And what's different about our companies is that we put energy into our food. And just like we were talking about in divine union, energetically, you can't hide anything from one another. If something's playing out energetically, you're going to become aware of it. The same is true with food.
Yeah.
When energy is in food, you may not know what's going on behind the scenes, but you can feel the difference.
Yeah.
Especially what we're putting into our food, which is codes of courage, courageousness, to actually take that leap of faith, to jump off the edge and trust that you can fly. So Request Bar is, here to help people not only receive those flashes of inspiration from the divine, hence the lightning bolt and the mountain lion's teeth, that's our logo, those flashes of creative inspiration, but to know their own power, to be rooted and grounded in their own power in order to be able to capture those moments of creative inspiration, actually ground them here onto the earth.
I absolutely love that. And I want to bring some of my own interpretations of what you're sharing as well, because I know that some people listening will totally follow, like I am following, and some people may go, okay, you're talking about codes in the food, then the mother Gaia, what are you saying? So really, like I'm here, like I love it. And I love that this is the authentic expression of you both, because that depth and that connection is so powerful, and it is so rare. I personally am yet to meet someone that creates a business in the way that you have, with the depth and the connection that you have. So that is so rare, so special, and so potent. And for anyone listening that might be going, what are these three people talking about? I see it also in a really tangible way. Everything that you have shared can be proven to the minds that want the more to the skeptical minds can be proven, because when we speak about the restoration of our mother and the restoration of Gaia, we can also link that back to really operating in ways that are supporting the regeneration and the conservation of our planet. So regardless of whether you have a spiritual connection with Mother Earth or not, which is something that I wish for every single human being, that we have that connection with her, because she is our mother, and everything that we do and everything that we are is sustained by her. But regardless of whether that sounds super resonant to you or completely foreign to you, think about the fact that you are living at a home that, if it is destroyed once and for all. So the fact that you are investing in products and services that are taking care of nature and the environment is not only honoring and beautiful and what's needed, but it's actually the only practical thing to do. It's actually the only thing that makes sense, because we oftentimes look at, for example, food products, and I know that this is true for a lot of people, and want what's cheap, what's easy, what's instant, without really realizing the actual effects and the actual impact of our choices. And if we are not supporting the products and the companies that are sourcing fair trade, ethical, and organic products and ingredients, and instead investing in companies that are destroying our planet, we're not only destroying our bodies, we're destroying the planet that we need in order to live. So you may think that it makes more sense to invest your money in something else than good food. But when the planet doesn't exist, what is that something else going to be? You invest in that on clothing, if you invest in that in a car, if you invest in that in your business, none of that can exist if the earth doesn't exist. Another point you mentioned about the divine feminine, and in a really practical way, I feel like this is such an embodied way that you are bringing that forth, because the way in which you are choosing to operate. Let's take the month of October aside. I know that you're working really hard this month, but generally speaking, you're choosing to work from a space of being delighted by everything that you do, being delighted by the people that you bring into your community, really intentionally choosing who's doing the art for your packaging, who is teaching you or training you, who is packaging and creating all of these products. So the intentionality behind everything that you're doing, and how deeply you choose to honor yourself and your nervous system and your body's needs and your well-being and the intimacy and the depth in your relationship, never compromising your values, that is such a feminine way to run a business. And of course, there is the masculine pillar that you bring with the structure and the making shit happen and ensuring that all is working. But the values and the energetics behind how you carry yourself as an entrepreneur are so feminine. And just by your way of being and you leading in this way, you are inspiring anyone that comes in contact with a request bar or a brownie that I cannot wait to eat. I said this 1,000 times, but I wanted to voice it this in the podcast. A request bar or brownie, you're inspiring just through your way of being and leading the company, for people to know that this is also possible. And the more we do this, the more we create this new reality as the default setting versus the old paradigm that we have had as a default setting. So I wanted to highlight this because oftentimes when we talk about, and I know I talk a lot about how every single creation of mine comes from ceremony as well. And for people that maybe haven't had that connection, it can sound like, what are they talking about? Like, that's just some woo stuff. But in a really practical way, we're seeing it. There's practical, relevant applications to everything you have shared, regardless of whether people have a deep connection with their food and understand energy or not.
Totally.
Those things are just facts.
Yeah. And even if you don't understand energy completely, if you're listening to this conversation, you're probably going to be interested in understanding energy and just noticing when you go to a restaurant and you eat the food, tune in to, or even like go to the bathroom and try to get a glimpse of the kitchen and like feel out how they're operating back there. Are they stressed? Are they yelling? Are they sweating? Like, what's going on? And then see how that food makes you feel. So even just like with a plant, plants don't thrive unless they're inside of good energy. Like there are people that sing to their garden, sing to their plants, and they thrive. And then if they don't give them love, they die. Same thing. Also the water experiment that everyone always talks about, you know, when you put the word hate onto water and how the crystals form in the ice versus when you put the word love. This is scientifically proven that energy, the energy of words, the energy around, like, just of your environment, makes a difference. And especially when you're working with water, period. And also any ingredient or plant product that comes from the earth, because that's always going to be super sensitive. So like I have a friend that was putting on her face moisturizer every morning, and she was always really pissed. She was waking up late, she was pissed, and she kept breaking out. She kept getting acne. And then she realized, why am I doing it in that energy? So then she started really being intentional, being like, let me just say loving things to myself, say it's going to be okay, I have enough time. Because of her face cream being that plant substance, it was so sensitive to her energy that her acne went away in a day. Like it just stopped. And this is stuff that I hear all the time. Like a woman made an entire batch of food, and the girl that was there was helping her grandmother, and she was just super pissed. She was angry, she was mad, there was something going on with her family. The entire family got sick that night from the food. Why? Because there's literally anger inside of it. And so again, these stories are real. So it's like, if you love yourself, look into the products that you're not only eating but surrounding yourself with. Look into, how was this made, who made it, what state were they in when they made it, what are they committed to, so that the things that you put inside your home, inside your body, everything that you surround yourself with is actually lifting you up, so that you can thrive, so that you can perform at your highest, so that you can be your healthiest and your most vibrant. So it's like, what's in it for you? A lot. And then on a second note, even if you're someone that doesn't care a ton about the environment or has any sort of spiritual connection to Mother Earth or the spirit of Earth, which is Gaia, that's okay. But we're all, at the end of the day, we have huge hearts. Every single human, our humanity is rooted in our heart. And we all want to see a better world. And we all talk about it. We all say like, oh God, we have so much to work on, so much to improve. This world is so effed. The systems are broken. Everything's horrible. Where's the new earth, the new paradigm? We need new things, new structures, everything. Okay, we can talk about it, but we also need to look at the systems that we're continuing to energize. What systems are we still energizing with our dollar, with our time, with our focus, with our resources? And so when you buy a product off the shelf, let's just talk food. When you buy a food product off the shelf, this isn't across the board, but most food brands are sourcing the cheapest possible ingredients. And when you see those spec sheets of those ingredients, you'll read things such as Cargill. That is like the biggest, like GMO global, like it's like Monsanto. And they are huge brokers, and they are cutting deals, like just chopping off margins for farmers. And it's modern day slavery. And so it's like, that's what you're energizing when you buy something off the shelf most of the time. I hate to say it because I was a part of it. It's so horrible. And so now what you can do about that is just ask. You can ask for transparency from your people, from your companies that you're supporting. You can say, where do you get your ingredients? How do you source them? And just encourage that transparency. It's possible. And there are people that are doing it right now, which is awesome. But let's support that, even though a lot of times it takes more effort because you can't necessarily find it at the regular grocery store. And number two, it takes more money. But if you can remember this, when you put your money towards something that's good and that's right, you will get that back tenfold or more. And we have to upgrade our relationship to money. in order to truly energize new systems, in order to truly create new structures for our grandchildren.
Yeah.
And that's just what it's going to take, is a complete rewiring of our nervous system when it comes to money.
Yeah,
And this is one way you can start.
Yeah, and understanding the real cost of things. I remember it was about almost 10 years ago that I had this moment. I used to have a life working in corporate and would go out to these famous streets in Barcelona and just go shopping in all of these famous shops, whatever, shops that everybody shopped in. And I remember when I first found out that women were asked to work 16, 18 hours in a day and were paid nothing, like less than $1 a day. Sometimes these weren't women, they were children. And I remember when I first found out and just having this realization of, wait, I would not bring a 90-year-old, 16-year-old, or even like 60-year-old. I just wouldn't bring someone into my room and lock them into my room for a whole day to make me dresses, and they pay them $1 for it. So why am I supporting companies that's what they're doing? How does that make any sense? So my whole journey started understanding the cost, the real cost of what I was buying. And it's been years since I haven't bought anything that isn't ethically sourced and produced and, plant-based and all of that. And I've gotten even more sensitive to even feeling into the materials and what it does to my body to wear certain things and all of that. But leaving that one aside, it helped me understand the true cost of, in this case for me, was fashion, was my entry point. Really understanding what it was costing to the earth. Like, I wouldn't go to the ocean and just spill massive vessels of oil into the ocean. Why would I support companies that are doing that? Right? I wouldn't go and throw all these like tons and tons and tons of unnecessary plastic into landfill. Why would I support people that are doing that? So understanding the true cost of that, like, it wasn't what it costed me to buy the dress. It was what it was costing the earth, what it was costing the future generations, what it was costing the people that were making the dresses, and what it was costing the different plants and animals that were used to make those products. So really understanding the true cost is so important, because it is way beyond what we're paying in dollars. It is what we are actually voting for with our dollars that is impacting other human beings and the environment and our future generations, and what we leave as a legacy for them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about how you transitioned from this and the real cost of the products that you are creating now, and the blessings that you're creating with those products.
Will you repeat the question?
Yes. So I love to hear, what is the cost of your products right now? Meaning, what are the blessings that people are having because of that? So what is the impact that your products are having on the earth? What is the impact that your products are having on the people that are working on them? And what is the impact that they will have on the people that consume them?
Yeah. Well, so like what we charge for cacao, for instance, like a bag, our least expensive 1 pound bag is $33 US. That translates, between $50 and $60 Australian. And you can get a bag of raw organic cacao powder for $10 or less, on the shelf. And so the reason why that's that price is because the farmers set the price and we let them set that. Look, we're partnered with this guy named Matt in Peru, and he has this amazing relationship with the farmers that he's built over the last now 10 years. And it's all above fair trade because they all own their own farms. It's wild cacao growing on their family owned land. That was just that's all they have to make money, is what grows on their land. And so they're setting those prices, and it's challenging to cultivate this specific strain of cacao. It takes a lot of work. And so that's what you're getting. You're not getting this like heavy industry equipment focused hybridized cacao. you're getting the most native wild strain of cacao, where the farmers are honored. And even if we weren't a nonprofit, it would still be that case. And yeah, so that's one example.
And just something I want to highlight about that is, people might not understand the importance of, let's say, native strains. And so much of our produce these days are cloned, hybridized, genetically modified. We probably wouldn't recognize something that was native, even if it was right in front of us or in our mouth, right? But
Totally.
that's what was created by Mother Earth. And therefore, when we eat that, we're getting that direct transmission from her before it was altered by man. So we do that with cacao, but we also try to do that with all of our other products as well.
Yeah, exactly. Cacao is like next level because it's a medicine. It's a plant medicine. So it's very ceremonial in that sense. And yeah, so with the brownies, just to clarify, you wanted to know what the price is of the product?
No, I wanted to know what is it's all good. I love that you brought this up, because I'm like, okay, it makes sense. It makes sense to really understand why is it. And
I didn't think you were, I was like, she can't be asking that. I mean, you could just go to the website, right?
Can I just buy some now? I'm just trying to get the brownies. I've been trying to get those brownies for 2 months, Makenzie. So I'm just like,
I love you.
Kids, are you going to sell me some or what? How much do I need to pay so that you send me brownies to Australia? So no, but on that note, I wanted to mention that I'm so excited because I bought a bag of cacao for each of the women in my mastermind. I create these welcome boxes for them, and they're receiving that. So I loved hearing also a little bit more of the background of the story and where it comes from, because it is so powerful. And as you were sharing this, I guess this is a better way of reframing this question. I was thinking of how we are moving from the paradigm of thinking that when we are buying something, it's just for us to get something.
Yeah.
To we are actually exchanging at all times. There's always a reciprocity. There's always an exchange, right? And oftentimes I feel like we've been trained to think that when we buy a product or when we buy a service, we are receiving something and that's where it ends. And that's it. We don't actually understand the irony, the reciprocity that's happening at all times, whether it is spoken or unspoken. So really understanding that it's always a two-way conversation. So if I am buying something that is cheap and done in a way that it's not honoring the earth, it's not honoring the people that made it, it's not honoring anything really, it's not even honoring my own life, because it's going against what my body needs in order to thrive, then I might think that I'm paying for that product and that's where it ends. But actually the exchange is happening. I am receiving things that are detrimental to my health. I am receiving the karmic cords of putting my energy and money to vote for slavery. I am receiving that in return. So moving into this new paradigm of understanding that irony is happening, even if we're not taking it into account, is a really big game changer, because now we can start looking at how can we consume in a way that what we are sending out is just as good or better than what we are receiving in. So for instance, I buy your brownies, I'm going to continue throwing like messages at those brownies. I buy the brownies, and what I get in return is I am voting with my energy, with my intention, with my dollar for those ways of being, for those ways of running businesses, for those ways of operating, for it to be more, so that there is more of that in the world, right? So when I was asking the question before, what I wanted to know is really, what is the exchange that's happening? Because we are buying the request bars or we are buying the desserts, but there is so much more that is happening beyond me receiving the product. I am receiving those codes, and also what am I supporting? What am I saying yes and contributing to moving forward?
Yeah, I would say my answer really is just you'll know when you feel it. Like I can only give so many words to it. And if you're listening and this is kind of new for you, like you've just been, when you need new clothes, you go to the mall and you go to the like whatever's H&M or Zara, whatever, and you just like do your shopping. First of all, no shame. Like, this is what society has taught us to do. It's the most convenient, and most of us are in a rat race, which again was a setup. So you have like 1 hour on a Saturday to get a new outfit. What do? You go to the mall and you get these cheap clothes. But and I'm not saying that expensive always means quality. I'm not saying that like your Louis Vuitton bag is like the most ethically sourced thing in the world. I don't know, actually. I didn't look into it, but I'm assuming no. But what I would suggest, if this conversation is new for you, is take the time to really look in and do your research on some like places that you can consume from that feel good to you, and just feel it out, whether it's food, whether it's clothing, whether it's the candle that you put on your desk, whatever it is. Look into, how is this made? Who's the person behind it? What do they stand for? Where are they sourcing their things from? What are their practices? Just, it's going to take a little bit longer in the beginning because it's new, a lot of research, and it's kind of crazy how much will go into it at first. But then you'll get to experience what it feels like in your body when you do it. And that's the best way I can describe it, is you have to feel it, and you'll feel the difference. And then the next time that you want to go shopping, again, you already have those as resources. You're getting more comfortable with going about it in this way. And you know it's worth it because of how you felt the first time.
Yeah, for sure. And something that you mentioned before was around how we talk about wanting to create a better world and wanting to create the new earth. And I feel like some people, when hearing the concept new earth, it's the same that when we hear something like sacred union, it's like sounds just like fluffy, unattainable, up there in the clouds thing. There's like, woo, sacred union, woo, new earth.
Yep.
But in a really tangible, practical level, like this is how it happens. For some people, it might be through a spontaneous awakening, and all of a sudden something happens and you're totally enlightened, and that's a reality that you're living. But for most of us, it will happen through the daily choices that we are making. It would happen through choosing to create a new, better world. There won't be a savior that will come and change reality for all of us because we've suffered long enough. Actually, suffering ends when we choose to end it, for us and for us all. And voting with our dollar and choosing to take the risks or the leaps of faith that you were talking about to create a new reality through what we are putting out there in the world, whether it's our energy and how we treat ourselves, how we treat others, how we relate to our partners in partnership, or how we do business, is how we start creating heaven and earth, how we start creating the new earth reality. So I'd love to hear from you, Michael, around the request bar quotes that you mentioned, reminding people and inspiring people to dream again. For anybody listening to this episode that feels like they want to start taking steps to doing things differently, to dreaming a new way of carrying themselves in leadership, of doing business, of producing their products, whatever it is, what are some of the quotes that you would like to leave them with?
I'm so grateful you asked that. There are so many ways I could answer that question, but I think you said it best when you mentioned the feminine principles that underlie our businesses. And creation of any kind is really a feminine process. And that for me has been something that I've grappled with for a long time. Surrendering, even slowing down. My God, slowing down. That has been such a challenge for me at times because I, like most people, have been conditioned to go, 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 be a cog in the wheel, a rat in the rat race, etc., etc., etc. So I think step one is to get still, to actually be able to hear, whether it's hearing yourself, whether it's hearing your soul, whether it's hearing the spirit of Gaia, whether it's hearing the voice of God, to actually listen and receive something. Again, receiving being a feminine principle, to receive something that's more genuine to you than anything you could ever come up with. Your mind can only work in a linear fashion. It can only work in the context of time. It's brilliant for the tool that it was meant to be, but it will never conceive of the dreams that you actually have already living inside of you. That can only come from a direct transmission from whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter to me. God, source, the universe. But all of us have that capability. So to slow down, to slow even the vehicle, the physical vehicle, to listen. And then when the genuine insight comes, when the genuine inspiration comes, and you'll know it's genuine for you because you'll feel it in your body. And everybody responds differently to these types of things, you know. Maybe for you it's an inkling and you're like, ooh, okay, whoa, what was that? I've never quite felt that before. Let me like follow the breadcrumbs there. For other people, it like knocks them over, you know. It's literally like getting hit by a lightning bolt.
That's
you
me.
know?
That's me right there.
Right. Makenzie's like, boom. And then she's up for 48 hours and she can't think about anything else. But not everybody is like that, you know? In dreams, I'm sorry, but like dreams, real dreams are not something we've been conditioned to pursue. We know about immediate gratification. And if we don't have it, how we tend to give up on things, and our entire culture is built on immediate gratification. But real dreams, they come true, evolve, materialize over a lifetime. So that's where these more masculine principles come in. Commitment, focused life force energy. How and where are you going to show up and devote yourself every single day? What are you going to give your God-given creative life force energy to? Are you going to give it to something that might give you a hit of dopamine and make you feel good for a second? Or are you going to give it to something that's literally, like we're talking about here, going to change and impact the world over a lifetime? But if you don't slow down in the first place, you'll never be able to receive something like that. So request bars is receive the creative inspiration and then take the divine right action. You know, you're going to be scared. If it's a real dream, if it's real, like for real, it's going to scare the shit out of you. Yep. You're going to not want to do it. In fact, thinking about it will probably make you want to shit your pants. That's how I know. If I have to shit my pants, then I know it's a real dream for me. But taking the courageous leap of faith, the first step, I don't know what I'm doing, and here's what I'm going to do. Here's what I'm being guided to. Taking the first step and then letting the next step come. First step. Okay, I did the first step. What's next? Next step. Okay, I did the next step. What's next? Being courageous and going out and actually doing it. That's what Request Bar is here for.
I absolutely love that. And it was a great timed little nudge for me with my particular dreaming that you know about Makenzie with the retreat center, and how literally I have more of a feeling of throwing up than shitting my pants, but it's definitely there. It's like, whoa, this is a lot. For sure. Thank you for sharing that. And I agree. I tend to say it's interesting how we can relate that creative process in that feminine, harmonious way to the conception and birthing process. Like if we look at a woman when wanting to create life and birth life into existence, we have to open first to receive. And when we are in that receptivity and we open to receive, we can receive the seed of creation. And then through having the patience and the aligned ways of carrying ourselves for a particular period of time, then we can gather the courage to go through the process of finally birthing that project, in this case a child, into existence. And the same thing happens with creative projects. So I love that you brought this up, because it's true. Like I've mentioned many times this on the show, and I share this, there's nothing in my line of work that I do that has come from me sitting at my desk going, all right, what is the next thing I'm going to create? I go to ceremony, I go to into nature, I meditate, and I ask, like, what's next? I have energy, I have space, I have time. What is next? Versus wanting to figure it out from my mind. And this is why we live such incredible lives. This is why we carry these missions that are so epic and so impactful in so many ways, because we're allowing that something, whatever it is for you, bigger than ourselves to operate and flow through us, versus trying to use the mind, which is so deeply conditioned and wounded and limited to create a specific thing, which is game changing for sure. I love this, and I feel like we could have this conversation for 1,000 more hours. But I'd love to hear, where can people find Delighted by request bars? How can they tune into the movements and order the products?
Yes, thank you. Right now we're shipping to USA and Canada for Delighted by. So delightedbydesserts.com. That's the brownies, that's the dessert hummus kits, and then like tons of cool shit on the horizon. And then we also have requestbar.com, and we're again shipping to Canada and US right now, but working on importing to other countries once the borders open a little bit more. And then personally, I'm on Instagram at Makenzie Marzluff, and I represent all the entities and Michael on my personal Instagram.
I'm so grateful that you do.
Yes. He got kicked off recently, spoke too much truth. I mean, it's his profile still there, but he can't do any activity. And if you tag him, they like flag you. So don't tag him in anything. And also flycacao.com. And we actually do have a fulfillment center in the US, in Canada, in Australia / New Zealand, as well as the UK and Europe. So you can find all of those websites in the show notes, I'm assuming. And at Cacao Drinking Chocolate on Instagram, KAKAO Drinking Chocolate.
I love it. Thank you. I am looking forward to all of those products coming to Australia. I keep saying this for those of you listening to this episode. I have messaged Makenzie about 27 times in the last 3 weeks going, do you ship to Australia yet? Do you ship to Australia yet? Yeah. So go and check out this, because if you're in the US or Canada, this is one of those things that I would say, don't lose your opportunity. Go and eat those things. And you can just check it out on Instagram, like even just, anyways, I could talk about your brownies for 1,000 years, and I guess that's not what the whole episode gets to be about. But the last question that I love asking, and I'd love for both of you to answer this, is, in your opinion, what makes a leader sacred?
I can answer first.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. To me, what makes a leader sacred is when they do what you just shared, like literally let something move through them that's bigger than them. And how that works for me is just ask the question, what would you have me do? What would you have me say? Where would you have me go? And another way of putting that is, how can I be of the most service today? And then letting the universe answer the question by just what shows up in your life. But just asking that question is what makes leadership sacred to me.
I was going to say something similar. So in a way, I feel like mine was already said, but yeah, again, leadership is funny. It's like, it's not necessarily something we do as much as it is something that's done through us. So whatever it takes to become a clear vessel for something of the highest consciousness, of loving consciousness, because other things can obviously move through you that aren't necessarily those things. We don't want to open ourselves up to those things. But whatever you can do to cleanse and purify your vessel to actually receive something greater than just you, greater than just me, even if that something is your soul, and allow that to move through you. To me, that's what makes a leader sacred, is the willingness to go through whatever trials and tribulations are there, whatever cleansing and purification processes are there, to actually be a vessel for something more.
I love that. Love that. And I love everything that you guys are putting together, that you're doing, that you're allowing to flow through you. And I'm so grateful for our friendship and for the leadership that you that you allow through you one more time, and how you show up in the world, in your relationship individually and in your leadership and in your business. So thank you again. Thank you for all of the codes and wisdom that you shared in this episode. And yeah, I look forward to connecting again very soon. Love you both.
Thank you, love. Love you too.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this video and got lots of value from it. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel for many more value-packed free videos, and share this with anyone in your life who can also get value from it. If you want to get access to all of my free resources and connect, check out the links in the caption. Thank you again, and I will see you on the next video.